screw this. Like, I'm just going to take a break now. So yes, a lot of series were watched. Actually, there's three things that are eternally true, right? One is you can do anything. Like, this isn't motivational fluff or anything. If you can't outcompete the guy who's just having fun. So I think that's how I like to think of.
Hi everyone, welcome to UpStarts, the official podcast of IFSA LSR, wherein we interact with people building careers at the intersection of ideas, impact, and industries. Our guest for today proudly calls himself as the strategist with a passport, and his journey really justifies that. He started off as an engineer at BITS Pilani, went on to study strategy at INSEAD, and worked in different countries like UK, India, Denmark with different organizations like KPMG, EY, Tata, and last but not the least, Novo Nordisk, wherein he worked on GTM and brand marketing strategies. Currently, as a freelancer, he writes essays and case studies on different marketing strategies and travels extensively, reads a lot, and shares his journey with the world. So, today's podcast is not just going to be about consulting or strategy, but about navigating uncertainty and building your own path. We welcome to the podcast Akshat Kharbanda. Welcome, Akshat.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's really nice to have you on the podcast. Just a light icebreaker. What have you been doing these days? What's keeping you busy? And what does your usual day look like?
I think what I'm doing right now is best described as fucking around and finding out. So for context, I left my job with Novo in September. And then for the first 2 months after that, I basically just watched a lot of Modern Family. And then I would call it serendipity or whatever else you'd like to call it. But there was this founder I had met in Singapore who's working on some maternal and neonatal health AI solutions who wanted to enter the Indian market. So he reached out to me asking for help. And I said yes. So I worked with him on that go-to-market strategy. That project ended, and then simultaneously another one started, this time with Clinton Health Access Initiative, on similar maternal and neonatal health angles, as well as their internal AI strategy, which I didn't know much about, but I said yes, and then, figuring that out as well.
Definitely.
So I think what I've been up to these days is these super interesting projects that I wouldn't have imagined being in, just 6 months back. But they're fun so far. And in addition to that, like you mentioned, it's been a lot of reading, a lot of traveling, trying to take my health a bit more seriously as well now that I have more time outside a full-time job. And still watching Modern Family.
So this seems to be a recurring theme in your journey, just trying to go check out different projects. So let's go to the beginning. We would love to talk a little bit more about your education. So you started out with a BTech from BITS Pilani and then went on to do an MIM program with INSEAD. Now this is a little different from the regular MBA. That's really fascinating. Could you tell us more about that?
Sure. So I think, like most engineers in this country, sometime around the second year, I realized that ye nahi hoga mujhse. Which also coincidentally was the time when COVID struck and we were sent home. So of course that was a rough period, but it also meant a lot of free time. So I basically decided at that time to think about what to do besides electronics and communication, which in hindsight wasn't possibly the smartest move considering where NVIDIA, etc. are right now, but well, that's all right. So I tried out a bunch of things: sales, marketing, consulting, and consulting was the one that really struck. And then come placement time, when I'm sort of both on campus and off campus looking at consulting firms, I noticed that they're pushing me in this tech box, which makes sense, right? I have a tech background. But I didn't like that. I wanted to be more of that generalist business strategy consultant than a technology consultant. So that's what actually drove me to the decision of getting rid of that box, and that's when an MIM really came in handy. INSEAD in particular was always fascinating to me for a couple of reasons. It is known as a consulting feeder, that's that. 2 campuses, France and Singapore, so I was like, that's pretty cool. And 10-month program, so it's not, HEC Paris, for example, even in a MIM capacity can go on to 2-3 years. I didn't want to invest that much time. And things worked out.
Definitely. So do you think that there's anything specific that differentiates, apart from, the travel exposure, that differentiates an MIM program for a regular MBA?
I think the way we thought of it internally is that it is an MBA at half the cost and for people with half the experience. So I think it's important to differentiate here that when you're looking at an Indian context, we use the MBA term very loosely in terms of 0 to 3 years of experience is how we think of it. But if you go globally, MBA is more so for the mid-career people, the folks with 5 to 10 years of experience. And of course, that wasn't me. So I think that's where the differentiation comes. So the way I think of it is that a MIM abroad is the same as an MBA as we know it in India.
In India.
Yeah.
All right. And just one last question maybe. Is there anything in specific that you liked about living and experiencing cultures at Singapore or France?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think NCR was in general a very, very fun time. Across a lot of dimensions, I think if I had to really think about my life there and sort of bucket it a bit, when you're looking at academics, for example, BITS had a no attendance policy, which I fully utilized. Like I was not in classes. But here I didn't say I was going to every class, which is the nerdiest thing ever, but that's because they were teaching so well. So I wanted to actually go and learn. And then socially, you sort of, with these people, I think there was like 50, 70 different nationalities in the cohort, which just opens your eyes to a lot of things, right? And you really realize that ultimately you can have fun with anybody, anywhere. And finally coming to the places themselves, I think both France and Singapore were beautiful experiences, and both were interestingly very opposite experiences. So in France, we were in Fontainebleau. It's this tiny village, which is, it's like us people at INSEAD and then 80-year-olds, and there's no in between. But with a place like Singapore, it's so cosmopolitan, people from all over the world yet again, so proper city.
Yeah.
I think I got both those experiences, and both of them were fun in their own way. Both of them were annoying in their own way. But yeah, both of them were great.
Okay.
So I think that was a great experience that you shared about your education. Moving on to your career. So I think you spent around 5+ years in your consulting career, and you worked at different companies like KPMG, EY, Tata, and the most recent was Novo Nordisk for sure. So in general about consulting, since you have spent so much time in this field, do you think it has changed the way you approach problems now, and is it that you solve your problems differently? Does it actually change your mind once you get into consulting?
That's an interesting question. I'm going to give you like a very economist answer and say yes and no, or like rather it depends, if you will. Because the way I think of it is essentially consulting is very ruthless in terms of problem solving. So yes, you learn to think and structure and analyze better. You learn to be more efficient with your time, and all of that is there, which is valuable in a professional context, but also sometimes not. I think we have like this massive optimization, hyper efficiency kind of mindset all around us. But I don't necessarily think the best work of my life or of anyone's life really comes from, just those periods, and it's more so like doing things inefficiently. That's where creativity really shines, and that's where doing things unconventionally comes out of the picture. And that is something that consulting can be a bit restrictive about, right? Because of course you have a client, you're billed per hour, you don't get to go in and take your creative solutions to them, and simultaneously often once the solution is there, once the deck is presented, and that's that. You don't know how it turns out, how things go. So that's why I said it's a bit yes and no, in the sense that yes, it definitely helps in problem analysis and structuring and things like that, definitely in stakeholder management. But I would say when it comes to creativity and implementation and things like that, that's where I enjoyed my time at Novo Nordisk a lot more, because I was sort of within the organization, seeing things end to end, seeing things that went well, and also the ones that didn't.
Right. So talking about the execution part, is it that the execution part of consulting is quite restrictive, and would you like to elaborate upon that? And in addition to that, we'd like to understand, since you have spent quite a lot of time in consulting, how do you approach, how do you see AI taking over into consulting these days, and what are some of the suggestions or recommendations that you would give to upcoming consultants in today's time?
Yeah, I think I'll take the second question first because it's such a like every day you go on LinkedIn and McKinsey post, but McKinsey seems to be doing all right so far. Uh, but the reason I reference specifically McKinsey is because their CEO also quoted something recently where he said around 40% of his workforce employees right now
right.
are AI agents.
Yeah.
Uh, and what that means is fundamentally the way consulting has been is it has been like this, right? You have a lot of people junior in the hierarchy. And you have like the one senior partner who's like overseeing 10 different projects. And what ends up happening is that the analyst is aligning logos across 500 slides or correcting Excel models and things like that, right? Which is like, don't get me wrong, that is difficult work and that is important work. But what these companies are now thinking is, AI can do that. So the model is inverting in the sense that now they're trying to front load more of that expertise, more of that, like they want 2 senior partners on a project instead of 10 analysts. So I think somebody said this, I don't know if this is an exact quote or not, but consulting and business schools, they're infamous in the sense that everybody keeps saying, oh, they will be reinvented, they will be gone in a decade and all of that. Yet they seem to keep on going.
True.
So I think it is fundamentally something about consulting that goes beyond like this problem solving element in terms of say outsourcing accountability or getting a new lens on things that you don't have within your org. That will, in my opinion, keep it going for a long while, no matter how advanced AI gets.
That's true. Okay, apart from that, let's talk about your experience at Novo Nordisk. So, I believe you worked there for around 2+ years, and we would love to know about the project that you worked upon. How was it working in a different country? How was it working at that organization, and what were the projects that you did?
Mm-hmm. No, Novo Nordisk was a fantastic organization and a great experience. So, for context, I spent 8 months in India, then I went 8 months in Denmark and 8 months in the UK. And all of them had different flavors to it. So, the 8 months in India were very pure play marketing execution. So, things like organizing events, podcasts, just going out there and activating as much offline presence as we can. So that was that. And then Denmark was the exact opposite. It was headquarter level brand strategy, go to market. So you're looking at 10, 15 different countries, things like that. And then the UK was somewhere in between. So to give you more context on what I did specifically in those 2 countries, in Denmark, I worked on the global brand strategy of Wegovy, which is a GLP-1 drug designed for weight loss. And in addition to that, I worked on a lot of consumer insight studies, particularly around people with obesity. So we surveyed around 7,000 people across 7 countries, trying to understand what is life with obesity like, right from how society treats them, how they feel in social settings, etc., to if they're taking medication, if they're not, things like that. So basically just mapping the end-to-end journey. So that was 2 of the projects. In addition to that, I did like some AI work on the side because of course, why not? And then I went to the UK. So the UK was an interesting choice for me because Novo Nordisk has been, when I joined, they were doing incredibly well. Like they were holding Denmark's economy and everything. And same when I went to Denmark, they were doing fairly well. The UK is where we were getting thrashed by our competitor. So Lilly has Mounjaro, and they had a significant chunk of the market share. So there was more about, okay, how do we get that back? So it was more crisis mode thinking, more like, at the risk of maybe saying too much, but more thinking around distribution versus product. So insofar, I think I've been thinking about product, brand strategy, etc. Now is more about distribution and how we can own those channels and things like that. So 3 different experiences, I think 3 vastly different learnings and environments. And all in all, I think I'm very grateful to Novo for a fantastic learning experience.
Maybe just to take that tangent, for a lot of us, Novo Nordisk is like synonymous with its most popular product, Ozempic. And if you've been on the internet, which you have recently, you would also know that Ozempic has been a pop culture phenomenon in the past few years. It's, impacted how a lot of people view their body. It's also led to a lot of like drastic body transformations. And it's also led to a difference in self-esteem, especially for young women. So how do you even begin to market a product which is intended for health, but now has taken on a more cosmetic role?
I think it was a bit of a surprise for even the people at Novo Nordisk when this whole pop culture phenomena happened. Because if you look at a 100-year history, then it's always been very focused on diabetes, been very clinical, and we've been like we are the guys who have good relationships with the doctors, etc. We are scientific. And then Wegovy and Ozempic come around, and suddenly people are making TikTok videos and things like that. I think the general sentiment within the organization was always, this is not what it was intended for. So we were always thinking from a lens of, oh, this is off-label use. And mind you, I'm not saying that because Novo Nordisk is a very noble organization. It's like 50% is owned by Novo Nordisk Foundation, right, which is not for profit. So of course that dictates our thinking and our aspirations. I can imagine our competitors were quite happy with this news. But anyways, I think for us, the mindset was that this off-label use isn't good. When we design Ozempic or Wegovy, it's for people, with a significantly high BMI, who have struggled with weight all their lives. Maybe they've tried diet and exercise. Maybe they can't do diet and exercise because they have knee problems, things like that. So that was always our target customer profile. And then this happened. So I think from an organization lens, that was the general sentiment. Simultaneously, I can imagine that the execs weren't complaining about the attention that these products are getting. And I think from a brand strategy lens, when you think about it, it didn't affect us as much, because fundamentally when you're having discourse around a product, like, yes, that's good for our brand awareness, etc. But like I said, we are laser focused on our target customer, which is the person living with obesity who actually needs the drug. I don't care if any celebrities take it. It's not who I'm going after. So yeah, I think it was a bit of an interesting position. Like, we saw this happening. We're like, wow, that is surprising. I think you look at maybe after Viagra, this is like the first pharmaceutical drug that gets into like such mainstream culture. So we look at that. But then we're like, okay, back to business, which for us is going and telling the doctors, the ones who are seeing people with obesity, and telling them, "Arey kuch nahi hai, jao." Like, obesity is not treated as a condition, right, as a medical problem, but it can be. So for us, it was going to that doctor and convincing them to think about it as a serious medical condition to think about. And that is where our brand strategy also was.
Definitely. Since we've gone through a couple of your essays on Substack, we're really fascinated by those also. You'd mentioned in your Stanley Tumblr essay that one of the reasons that they actually, went through their boom of in sales was because one woman, a blogger, was using their Tumblr not for its intended use, but just as a mom and trying to stay hydrated. And she actually emailed them repeatedly, trying to, continue their production and to make them not stop. Is there any product that you feel is so close to your heart that if the company decides to stop production, you would go to that email and spam, and the absence of that product would actually have a decent impact on your life?
Interesting question. The honest answer is no. Like, I'm not somebody who's very oh, I love this product, I love that product. Like, that's just not I am. It's more so it extends for books more than particular products. But what I will say is, like, there are brands like The Whole Truth that I also wrote for recently, which I think they're doing the right thing. So I think when you're looking at a brand, you're looking at an intersection of truths. So there's the company truth, there's the category truth, there's the consumer truth. And when you're looking at these truths, essentially in order to build a successful brand in any category, you have to break one of them. I think The Whole Truth breaks a category truth of food ka jo ingredients hai, they should be hidden, they should be back labeled. Like, they don't do that, right? It's all out there for you to see, which I think is a very, very welcome change, given we don't know how much hidden sugar we're eating, what's in our processed foods, everything, right? So yeah, I think that is a brand that I really admire. And if tomorrow Shang Mehta announces that sorry, we're closing it down, then I would send a few emails.
Definitely. So maybe Aditi can move on.
Yeah. So I think that was great talking to you about your career and cultural storyteller aspect as so far. Now let's talk about something you have been doing these days, which is freelancing. Let's talk about what you have been doing after you left your job. So we would love to know about your journey, how you started with freelancing, where did this idea come from, and what is it that you're exactly doing, the services that you're providing, and apart from the posts, the amazing posts that we see on LinkedIn, the amazing reels that you post on Instagram, and also the brilliant marketing and brand case studies that you put on Substack, what else is there? So that is something we'd love to discuss about.
I think for me, when it came to leaving Novo Nordisk, so that was a bit messy, and maybe it's best if you don't go into it. But long story short, around the last 3-4 months in the UK, I was a bit uncertain about continuing with Novo Nordisk because they gave me a guaranteed offer, but I turned it down and everything. And I was basically then in job hunting mode. And I was particularly focused on the UK for no reason other than the fact that I was there, which wasn't exactly the best decision making process, but we are irrational in that way. And yeah, I mean, then Novo did extend an offer, new CEO, all of that went to shit. So yeah, I mean, for me, like all of that happened. In my mind, I was like, okay, 3-4 months of work had resulted into something, and then it was gone in a matter of a week. So for me, the first 1-2 months were just like, okay, screw this. Like I'm just gonna take a break now. So yes, a lot of series were watched, and then because you mentioned like sort of LinkedIn right now, doesn't take me as much time honestly to churn these things out because I've been doing it for the past 2 years. So like now it's second habit, and I kept doing that. So people in my network knew that I've left my job and everything, and that's when one of the Singapore-based founders that I'd previously met while I was in Singapore, he reached out and he wanted to enter the Indian market with his solutions. And yeah, I mean, I basically did that. So that meant looking at what his product is, what does regulation look like in an Indian context, who should his first 100 customers be, things like that. Then that project came to an end, and simultaneously I started another one with the Clinton Health Access Initiative, wherein there were two projects. The first is their internal AI strategy. So they're rolling out across their 2,000 employees various AI tools, and they wanted to structure that in terms of how to best roll it out, how to structure a pilot, how do we actually capture ROI on this thing, things like that. And then there's a second project which is linked to the maternal health project that I worked on previously, wherein they're trying to they do a lot of market shaping work. So they're trying to understand this maternal and neonatal health space better. So I'm helping them with market research, landscaping, etc. So that is what I've been up to so far. I don't really think freelancing was anything planned as such. There isn't any particular niche again. But what did happen is that after those 3-4 months, and then I came back and then I had those 1-2 months, I was just like, okay, I don't want to look for a job anymore. Like I just got fed up of that. And then this started happening, and now it's happening, and I'm actually enjoying it quite a lot. It helps me come and do podcasts at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday that I couldn't do while I was working full time. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the freedom and flexibility that it brings, and so far so good.
Right. So, if you had to tell us 2 or 3 things that you best like about freelancing, and something you'd compare to your full-time job, if you're getting more time to work on more things, or anything apart from that, so what is it that you basically the benefits that you have gotten out of freelancing, and also if it does pay better, or
Yeah.
or how do you compare it with your full-time job?
Mm-hmm. No, I think I'll answer with the benefits first. Firstly, time flexibility. Like I think it's Novo Nordisk was a fair employer. Like it was never, I never had to work insane hours or anything of that sorts. But I do have a lot of friends who are working EY and KPMG, and these are friends I see once a quarter because the rest of the times they're working. So that is one underrated aspect. The second element is you are not within the organization, right? So you're exempt from a lot of the non-work stuff that you have to deal with. So things like office politics, for example, which is a major mental load off your head. And the third one is you can do it from home. So I don't have to commute Delhi Gurgaon. That would be hell. So that is one underrated advantage. Coming to pay, I think maybe this is a bit of a blunt statement to make, but insofar the clients I've had have all been abroad, right? And they paid me exceptionally well. I'm making as much as I did in my full-time job in the UK. But when it comes to clients in an Indian context, then I've been lowballed quite a bit and things like that. And I don't think it's there's any malicious intent there or anything of that sort. So I think it's just the fact that here the thinking is more so, okay, why are you freelancing? Come on board full time, which is a lot of what I heard when I was looking for clients. So when it comes to pay, I think, I mean, your client selection really matters. So this isn't to say that, oh, Indian clients are bad or anything of that sort, but more so that people who want to pay you well will pay you well, full stop. Second is sort of the nature of the work itself. So the kind of work that I'm doing now, I can command a higher price for it versus some of the other work. So for example, like I wrote for The Whole Truth and Plum, and that did not pay me much, if at all. Like that was nothing, honestly. So yeah, I mean, the work scoping also defines how much you'll be paying. And then the third element always in these things is negotiation, and negotiations become a lot easier when you already know the person or when you have like something in common and things like that. So that's where I think I go back to the very start of my answer in terms of writing on LinkedIn, or even for that matter, like going to INSEAD and everything. So I've met a lot of people. I've always tried to give more than I take, and touch wood, that means that when I am in a position to take, people are happy to give.
Right. I think freelancing in general has become an interesting phenomena these days, because I feel everyone after some point is interested in doing something other than a full-time job, and many students these days are also interested in freelancing. There are many creators out there whom I personally follow, and they have been freelancing only full-time, and there are others who are sort of confused between what exactly to go ahead with. Is it your full-time job or is it your freelancing? And even if you choose between the two, how is it, and how do you go about with it, and how do you choose, where exactly do you start from, and how do you pick your niche, for example?
There is this quote, right, ki suno sabki karo man ki.
Right.
I think that is the philosophy with which you should live life. So understand that I think in everything in life, actually there's three things that are eternally true, right? One is you can do anything. Like this isn't motivational fluff or anything. If you really set your mind to something, you can do it. That is one element. The second element is life is a game of probability. So yes, you can go and run a successful multi-million-dollar startup, but the odds of that succeeding are far lesser than the odds of you getting a relatively stable job with a consistent income, etc.
True.
And the third is the thing that I said at the start, ki you have to sort of figure out where you stand between the two. So I think of one as art and the other as science. Everybody is tuned in different ways, they have different balance. And as long as you're not sort of in your natural position, you will always feel a bit uneasy. So that's what I'll say. I think when you're looking at careers, and of course I'm still fairly early in my career, so I'm nobody to give anybody advice in terms of this is how you should shape it or whatnot. But I do think what I have observed so far is that whatever opportunities you get, you should try to make the most of them, and that doesn't necessarily mean monetarily. Right? You should try learning the most. You should try meeting as many people as possible. You should seek to be a better version of yourself, month over month or day over day or whatever. And sooner or later that works out for you till you figure out what you enjoy more, what natural strength you have and things like that. So my advice, if you will, to people is to ignore most of the advice out there. If something seems interesting to you, something is making you curious, I think you should chase that curiosity. And then if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then go watch Modern Family for 2 months and you'll find something else that works.
I particularly feel with this generation that is coming up, there is this sort of feeling that you need to try to do something, and then you should get success very quickly. So that is something that this generation, particularly ours, is chasing. So what is your advice for those people who want quick success, or if things don't work out quickly, they get sad and they just move on to different things, which I personally feel is a wrong thing, because definitely you should be working on something for a longer period of time. So what do you think about this?
I think I'm the same. Like, it, I feel like a lot of the blame sits on social media. Uh, like if you go open Instagram right now, sure you'll see like somebody with the perfect career or the perfect body or whatever, right? So all of that is there, and I think social media has made it much more visible, etc. So for me, one thing that's really helped is the phone is there. Like it's wherever possible, I try to be as much in the present, as much in the moment. My screen time at one point of time was around 6 hours, which is now like maybe 20 minutes. So I think that has drastically helped in terms of thinking. But overall, the broader theme, I think, is social media. You look at it, you look at the 1% who've had exponential success early in their career, which, mind you, comes with its own challenges. Like I've talked to some of these people who built like billion-dollar companies at a young age, and now there is the pressure to sustain it. Now you can't take your foot off the pedal, and you're sort of logged in at a very early age. It sounds like a first world problem. Like somebody might be listening to this like, okay, wow, I'll cry in my Ferrari. But it is a real problem. Like that, and that is the thing about anything, like any success. We tend to see the most visible layer of it, right? Which tends to be money, tends to be status, things like that. But there are sort of invisible layers of success, right? How much time are you spending with your friends and family? How much at peace are you? Uh, how much are you traveling and like really living your life? How much time do you have? These are things we don't like. Again, that's the thing. So you have these levers. Nobody has all 4 or 5 levers up. It's always like they'll have their one lever up. They'll make a social media page about that lever, and there you go. Like, oh wow, look at their life. It's so perfect. And then you compare your shitty normal life to it. But yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally poverty is no effect. So it helps to keep that in mind. And as far as the time pressure goes, yeah, I think things will happen when they're meant to happen. Is as cliche as it sounds.
Okay, moving on from this topic. So let's just talk about your tech background a bit, and let's talk about so since you have a tech background and currently you're a marketing professional, what do you think, like, are there any skills or is there any particular edge that you have over the other people who are working in this industry currently, given your tech background?
Yes and no. Sorry, I know I'm saying that a lot. Uh, but I mean, fundamentally, when you think of marketing, right, you have performance marketing and you have brand marketing. Performance marketing is an engineer's playground. So that's where it's a lot of, CTRs and things like that. So you're constantly optimizing. So that is where all the tech pros go, if you will. But the area where I work is brand marketing, and that's where it's less of that. It's not really a game of, इस campaign में ROI कितना है, and more so broader like brand objectives, spontaneous recall, and things like that. Now the good thing is, and this is again, so that's the two contexts. Firstly, the environment you're in, and secondly, who you are, right? So if I'm in performance marketing as a tech person, then I'm just one of many. But if I'm in brand marketing as a tech person, then I bring a certain structure to the table that enables the finance leader who's listening to brand marketers and asking कि अच्छा ठीक है but ROI कितना है, अच्छा इसके numbers क्या हैं, and things like that. That is a level of comfort that I have right? So I'm able to bridge that gap particularly well, the gap between the brand marketer who's running campaigns that are not showing up in neat little meta dashboards, and the CXO or the CFO who wants to see hard, objective numbers and data, given our current obsession with that. So yeah, I think it does serve an advantage. With that being said, uh, there's also disadvantages. I think I'm surrounded by exceptionally talented, significantly more creative people, which is, of course, that's the thing, right? I learn from them, and they hopefully learn from me.
I think that was great. Um, Also, so since you have started posting on Instagram also recently, there was this reel wherein you said that uh, it's choosing your paths. I think that this was something like knowing which race to run is rarer than winning one. So this was, I think, an amazing line that I personally you know found very interesting. And for students in today's time who are around a lot of competition and who are who are listening to a lot of different definitions of success, how would you unpack this line particularly for them?
I think there is this famous quote, I don't know who said it, but you can't outcompete the guy who's just having fun. Uh, so I think that's how I like to think of it. Understand that just because I've worked outside of college for few years, or somebody has worked for 30 years or whatever, doesn't mean anybody has a clue what's going on. We are part of incredibly complicated systems, and if you don't have to take my word for it, go pick up a macroeconomics book and you'll see, go look at what Trump is doing and the ramifications it has. Like, this is all such wild shit that's going on constantly, and nobody has any idea what is good and bad. Of course, there's general norms that, okay, there's a lot of money going into AI, things like that. And I guess what that means then for somebody who's surrounded by information overload is to underload it, is to treat information as a form of entertainment, if you will, and use it to sort of dictate your own thinking. And for me, I think that means looking inwards a lot. You know what they say, right? Quarter life crisis, you go running. But yeah, something like that. Do meditation. I don't know, whatever it is. Write, read, anything that helps you better understand yourself. Because, like I said, one of the fundamental truths of life is that you can do anything you want. Just have to figure out what you want, which is the harder part.
To end our episode, Akshat, it was really nice talking to you, and it was so nice to listen to not just your experiences but also your insights and how you approach your problems in life. And I feel like people listening to this, especially students, will maybe feel a little pressure taken off of them to have it all figured out as they're approaching the precipice of taking decisions and stuff like that. I think it was really insightful to sit here and maybe discuss these things with you. And to people here listening for IFSA LSR, we'll see you in the next one.